Alrighty, guys, this is the WWE podcast. We are going to get things rolling in just a minute, and boy, oh boy, do we have a ton of content to get to you tonight, or today, depending on when you're listening, and that is Michael Gross and I discussing Backlash that's taking place tomorrow night, as we record this anyway. So we went through the entire Backlash card. We talked about current events like AJ Styles winning the Intercontinental Championship, if Brock Lesnar could be intervening in one of the matches at Backlash. We discuss Paul Heyman getting fired as the executive director of creative for Monday Night Raw. And we get to some questions that you guys had that you sent via email. So you're going to want to check this show out. It is definitely one of the longest shows that we have had, but I think that's a good thing. Maybe you can split this up, but this will get you 100% ready for Backlash. Really excited to give this show to you guys tonight. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
Nobody likes the guy who says, "I told you so." The guy in 1991 who said to you, "Invest in the internet, it's going to be huge." Or the guy in 1997 who said, "Come on, this is going to be big. They call it social media." And the guy in 2009 who said, "I'm telling you, man, crypto is real." Now, I'm not going to be that guy who says, "I told you so." But I am telling you that there is a 21-year-old international company where you can become a global project partner, earning a passive income doing exactly what you're doing at this moment. No selling, no recruiting clients, no administering a business after hours. Visit www.mypassiveincome.life now. That's mypassiveincome.life. Don't let history repeat itself on this one. Earn a passive income. Now listen again. That's mypassiveincome.life.
Visit and shop today at somethingtolaughat.store. STLA Merch is an online trendy and humorous fashion brand. T-shirts, beanies, hats, coffee mugs, phone cases, and more. Items for men, women, kids, and babies. Again, that's STLA Merch at the website somethingtolaughat.store. Safe and secure processing. Excellent customer service. Check out their collections today. Merch to make you laugh, give you pride, give you good vibes. They've got great gifts for friends and family members as well. Go check it out today. That's somethingtolaughat.store, the STLA merch shop at somethingtolaughat.store. An online, trendy, and humorous fashion brand. Go fill your cart today.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast. It is, what the heck is it, Saturday, June 13th, 2020, and we're going to cover Backlash almost ad nauseum. I mean, and that's a good thing, right? If you love wrestling audio, this is your show tonight, because I talked to Michael Gross for 2+ hours. Yeah, 2+ hours on Backlash and the current events of WWE. So just really buckle yourself in. This is quite a lengthy show, but I think that's a good thing if you like long form audio. This is your jam. So get yourself ready. This is a very fun show, very informative. Always great to have him on, because it's just a damn pleasure to talk to somebody that's so knowledgeable in wrestling, and it's just great, because we also have, I think we have good chemistry anyway. At least that's my assumption, or my perception of it. So definitely have him on the show more often, and as well as my other co-hosts. So we'll be doing a Backlash review show on Monday of a co-host to be named. And then on Tuesday, Raw review. Wednesday is back at it, and hey, we're off to the races. So you're going to get an extra show next week, which for a total of 8 shows. I mean, geez. My computer's working overtime. I'm literally, my processor, I can feel the heat coming off of it on a nightly basis. So, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. As we get closer to Backlash here, there's a lot to discuss. A lot to go over, a lot of possibilities. Could Brock Lesnar return? Yeah, we cover how that could happen tomorrow night. And so stay tuned for that. But first, if you haven't followed the show before, give us a subscription on Apple Podcasts. Boy, it's late. Tell me, it's like close to midnight here and where I'm recording. But give us a subscription on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you can listen to audio. It really helps out the show. And give us a rating and review. If you like the show, do that for us. It really is very helpful. And you can also check out the website at wwepodcast.com and head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast if you want an ad-free experience of this show, completely ad-free. It's $1 for an entire library where there's no ads. How about that? Imagine that, where you don't have to skip through or sigh that, oh, these ads. I get it. But hey, who doesn't want to monetize their show? And you can also listen to it ad-free for $1, the entire library. You can download the entire library for $1. So I think that's a pretty good value. So we're going to get to Backlash, and we're going to get to all of those things that I just discussed with Paul Heyman being fired, AJ Styles Intercontinental Champion. Where does he go from here? Just so much. And we get on our normal tangents that I think you guys enjoy. They're not intentional, but they just happen when you talk wrestling with somebody. So let's get to it. Let's start talking to Michael with Backlash on the mind. And I'll be back on Monday with your review show, Tuesday's Raw, Wednesday's Nostalgia, and on and on and on. So, guys, thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Welcome to your official Backlash preview and prediction show. I've got Michael Gross with me today. We're going to go in depth on our previews, thoughts, predictions of tomorrow night's Backlash pay-per-view that starts at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Really excited to discuss Backlash with you, Michael, and, of course, some other really big ticket items. So, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much. As always, I'm very humbled. I appreciate every listener that listens to our show, and anybody who, approaches us with questions or, they just want to talk wrestling or listen to wrestling. I feel honored that you choose me.
No, that's great, and I do too, and I do really. I say that every week that, like, hey, I'm thankful for all the listeners because there are so many wrestling podcasts out there, so many. It's crazy, and to compete with the top dogs in this wrestling podcast world is not easy. I mean, we're consistently in the top 30, top 40, and it's hard to crack that top 20 and 10, but we're working on it. So, alrighty. Well, before we get to anything regarding Backlash, I do want to just jump right into a question we got, and then I want to talk about some other items that happened on SmackDown last night and something else as well. So the first question I have is from Madeline Burris, and she initially emailed me. I don't think she intended this to come on the show, but I told her that I would answer this on the show for her because I think it's more fun. So here's her question. She says, just wanted to get your thoughts on something with your Backlash preview coming up. Let me preface this with the fact that I know there is about a 0.01% chance of this happening, but in regards to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, what are your thoughts on if Miz and Morrison somehow pulled off the victory and in turn on each other in a title feud? So I think I know what she meant there. She's saying if they turned on each other for a title feud. I've been watching some pay-per-views from 2009 because I miss the live crowd so much. Yeah, we all do. And the two of them actually put on some good matches. Miz is also a former WWE champ, and honestly, Braun interests me about as much as paint drying, whether that's WWE's booking fault or not. It also leaves an easy victory for Roman when he inevitably comes back and wins the title, as well as sets John Morrison up for a singles career with the time that he has left in WWE. Would love to hear you and or your co-host's thoughts. Go ahead. I'll let you take that one.
This is a great question, and I'm going to express to you why I think it's a great question. Now, do you remember in early 2000s when Chris Jericho and Chyna were the co-Intercontinental Champion?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that was terrible. But it was testing ground for it to happen again, and it could happen again. Now, theoretically, we're going to say that this booking goes through and that they win the match, which they won't, but If they do, and it sets up for a feud, there's no time like now to light the powder keg underneath John Morrison. He is locked into mediocrity by being associated with Miz. At this point in his career, he does not. I don't get WWE's whole obsession with him. I'm not a fan of the Miz. I see a reality show guy that never would have got signed if he wasn't on MTV before this. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. With that being said, if it happened, it would be the perfect vehicle to get Morrison's career going on. I have to agree agree with the Braun Strowman and paint drying analogy, because honestly, he's so big, he's so huge. Who do we really believe is a threat to him? And these 2-on-1 matches are terrible ideas, in my opinion. But with that being said, at least it makes sense because they're a supposed cohesive unit. You want to see Braun Strowman squash The Miz. We want to see John Morrison break out. If this were to happen, and they were to turn on each other, if the only person who didn't get pushed was John Morrison out of this, it would be terrible. It would be absolutely terrible. This is his time. He is so incredibly talented. He needs just to break out of the shadow of the tag team thing. Everything we've seen him do in Lucha Underground, everything that we've seen him do in Impact, and every place he's gone has been, it's been magic. And when he's allowed to do his thing by himself, it's great. Now, like the question stated, it would be easy for Roman Reigns to take the title back. I don't want to see any squash match on the level of the World Championship. I never want to see squash matches. They're just disgusting, and it just it defecates on what the title means to begin with. So for the title to actually mean something, Reigns would have to earn it back. And considering all the stuff that's going on with COVID, and I don't blame the guy for having, leukemia and not, or even being in remission and not wanting to participate. But I think it's put him in the WWE doghouse. It's a bad pun for the big dog, right?
Or a good one, yeah.
Well, I try. But, when it comes down to it, I don't think he's going to be, I could see him more in the Intercontinental scene for a little bit. With the Braun Strowman replacement, it obviously has not been a ratings blockbuster. So could John Morrison, featured as a singles, getting away from The Miz, be something really big and go forward and blow up? Yes. And if that's what it's going to take, I like I said, I don't want to see The Miz in a world title program, let alone really much on my TV, but that's just me. If that's what it's going to take for John Morrison to finally get the nod and run with the ball, let's do this.
No, I think you make a good case, and I think that that Madeline makes a good case as well. That this is something that it's possible, and I know that many people are writing this off, and we'll get to our official prediction, so I don't want to give my prediction away, but I mean the fact of the matter is that this seems like a fairly obvious pick. This seems like it's going to be Braun Strowman all the way, but that's what I thought with the Intercontinental Championship when he faced Nakamura and Cesaro and Sami Zayn, and look what happened there. Granted, that was a 3-on-1 and it was for the IC title, but nonetheless, Braun Strowman still lost. So that was surprising to me, so we've seen it before. Now that Braun Strowman has the Universal Championship, is it possible The Miz and Morrison take it and then one turns on the other? Yeah, it's possible, but who becomes champion? Because if you're sharing the belt, who technically is the champion? Maybe it's just held in suspension, and then they fight over the belt if one turns on the other, and they keep claiming I'm the Universal Champion. I'm the Universal Champion. They do some Team Hell No thing, right? I think that could work, and it would be interesting. But unfortunately, I think all signs point to the fact that WWE seems to have seen and put a limit on John Morrison's career. They seem to have defined him as the Miz's tag team partner. They put him exactly back where he left WWE, which makes no sense to do. And I understand that the tag team division on SmackDown isn't the strongest. The tag team division across the entire company isn't exactly strong. So you have to be careful when you dissolve a tag team of this talent. And yes, John Morrison's ultra talented. The Miz, I feel you on the whole reality star. I still, after all these years later, still don't feel that he has shook that real world stink off of him. It's just, I don't know what it is, but I still see reality star playing wrestler. I cannot, I don't care how, it's been forever, and I still look at him as that. He's talented on the mic, there's no question, but John Morrison, to me, I think that he has so much more potential beyond just being Miz's tag team partner that I think he could easily be the babyface if this were to happen. But I guess the argument against that would be that, Bray Wyatt, i.e. The Fiend, was teased at not Money in the Bank. Was it Money in the Bank? When they had their match? It might have been.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, when they had their match at Money in the Bank, after Bray Wyatt lost, The Fiend was teased, which tells me that Braun Strowman and The Fiend is still going to happen, and it, I would think, be for the Universal Championship. So if you take the Universal Championship away from Braun, and then you're just in a, I guess, one-on-one with no belt, which, honestly, I would do because I'm not a fan of Bray Wyatt holding the belt anyway right now. So it's a very interesting question, and I know she says that there's a 0.01% chance, but I would actually give it a little bit higher. I mean, I would say 10%. I would say there's a 10% chance that Miz and Morrison take the belt, to be honest with you. And it would be an interesting, like, oh my God moment. What just happened? How is this going to work? What's Braun Strowman going to do? It would create a buzz. There's no doubt about it. And to my last point on this, to both of your points, honestly, Braun Strowman he looks the part, but he is about as dimensional as the plane on my desk. I mean, he is so one-dimensional. He's just he's just like a big strong man who lifts things over, and he doesn't talk like that, but he's extremely one-dimensional. And he has not really developed a character since he started tipping over ambulances. He's that same guy, and we haven't got anything more from him. I do not connect with Braun Strowman on any level other than, okay, he's a big dude. So,
no, I get you. My only thing about Braun is, first of all, when he made his debut, it was a smart move to keep him off TV. Of course, he was a rosebud, but we didn't pay attention, and it was one of those things where at first he was kind of sloppy. But then he really did work on his wrestling. I can say that, especially when he worked with people like Apollo Crews and such. I saw a definite improvement in Braun Strowman. Now, with that being said, though, it's like you said. Besides tipping over ambulances, I see him on my TV and it's a bathroom break, and I hate to be that guy. But it's just the fact that I can't sink my teeth into the guy. I can't. First of all, we can't believe anybody besides The Fiend can beat him. He's so immensely huge, and he's been so protected, and he was the one guy that they let go over Roman Reigns a bunch of times. So he's very much coveted and protected, but if you don't have The Fiend for a program, I don't know what to do with the guy, let alone believe that anybody's going to be any kind of credible threat besides Roman Reigns when he comes back. So say this 10% happens. You know what? I might actually watch SmackDown instead of watch the Hulu version because I can't believe it. It might put some eyeballs on it. It really could.
It would, but they better have a plan for it and not just use it as a hot shot to spike ratings and then it flops, right? Then yes. WWE has a history of just doing something to get attention and then they go, okay, what do we do now? And they're like, well, I don't know. Well, we just did something shocking. And that is not the way to... And we've seen it before. This isn't just conjecture. This is WWE proving they have done this before where they just do something shocking and then it just... it's just a big... nothing. So I hope that if, and I still don't know if they will, I really doubt it, but if they did it, I'd be interested in it. Because to me, like we said, Braun Strowman is just... He's a champion that is a big guy, and yes, his in-ring performances have improved. That's great. But to me, I think that's secondary to character development. I mean, you talk people into the seats. You often don't wrestle them into the seats. And so if Braun Strowman's character development has been a flat line, I don't care how good his in-ring performances are because I don't connect with the character, so I don't care what he's doing in the ring. So I don't know. I think there's room for improvement for Braun Strowman character-wise. I just don't know if they don't trust Braun Strowman on the mic to deliver an emotional promo. I don't know what it is, but All right. Well, the other thing I wanted to touch base on, and Madeline, thank you for that question. It certainly is interesting, and we'll get to our predictions as the show goes on here, is I got to ask you, how do you like AJ Styles as Intercontinental Champion? Were you surprised that he won, given that Daniel Bryan seemed to be the slight favorite? And did you enjoy the just marathon-long match?
I could watch AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan wrestle all day, all night. The two know each other. I mean, how do I put it? Great wrestling, great wrestlers. So now I feel like the Intercontinental title means a little bit more than it did last week. And as dumb as it sounds, my thought process is, when we both agreed on this, that the hot potato with the belts and all the gimmick matches like Money in the Bank and the Royal Rumble stipulation, it's killed the meaning of the undercard titles. That holding that Intercontinental Championship, it always meant that you were one of the best workers. It gave us as a viewer a reward to watch our television, kind of like WCW when they had the TV championship. I'm happy with it. I'm actually kind of surprised. I figured Daniel Bryan would have actually picked it up. And I think just because we all know that AJ's in the last contract of his career, that he wants to elevate people. Part of me thinks that he got it to try to quell the sour taste of Gallows and Anderson getting fired. Hey, but I don't understand how much that would really quell it in real life. But if I'm going to see somebody the caliber of AJ Styles defending a belt and working against Daniel Bryan or Nakamura or the real workhorses, Cesaro, I'm happy with it, but I really thought it was going to be Bryan.
Especially considering that when Daniel Bryan gave his impassioned speech about what it means to be Intercontinental Champion, he said he was going to defend it every week. And I'm like, cool. I mean, that would be interesting, where he does kind of a John Cena U.S. Open challenge and allows somebody to come out and challenge him for the belt. And every week, you're getting a Intercontinental Championship match. Like, that would have been cool. Yes. That would have been cool. And especially seeing guaranteed a Daniel Bryan match every week would have been awesome. But that's what I thought they were setting up for. And maybe it was a last minute change, or maybe it was just a promo to mean nothing. But again, to me, really, when I look at these two, I'm like, it's really a win-win. To me, yes. No matter who won this, it was a win. They put the right two guys at the end of the tournament here, and I got to give props to WWE for making this tournament feel really important. The video packages on who's held the Intercontinental Championship, very important. They even had a quick snippet of China. I saw it, so I didn't miss it, and so they certainly have made it feel like it's worth something. And that, to me, was the goal driven into the creative of this, was make this championship feel important, add value, make it feel like it's worth dying for. And they have done an awesome job of it. I cannot fault WWE at all for this tournament. It was a great hook every week to see who would advance, who would make it to the finals, and ultimately who would win this match. And it was nice to see really a pay-per-view quality match. I mean, this was a pay-per-view quality match from effort, from length, and finish, and everything else. These two are just absolute pros. You knew, and WWE knew, they were going to get an absolute classic. I don't know if it was an absolute classic, but a really, you could say it's a classic in the framework of SmackDown, not necessarily as like true pay-per-view, but it was really good. That was wrestling, folks. That's wrestling. That's not it's not your 450 splash. Yes, there's a story told in the ring. Work on a body part. And then it really is to give yourself an advantage. So when you apply your finish, it's that much more devastating, and you're almost feeling the pain with your wrestler. And that's psychology 101 instead of this 150 mile an hour fly around. Nothing is sold. You register, but you don't sell anything. These are two pros that told a hell of a story. And I really loved it. It was a long match, yes, with even the commercial breaks made it seemed very long because of the commercial breaks, I think. But it was well worth the wait. I'm glad we didn't get a wonky finish. It was a clean victory for AJ Styles, which was surprising given he's the heel here. You don't see that happen too often, especially against somebody of the caliber of Daniel Bryan. But it established and resurrected, no pun intended, I guess, for AJ Styles after WrestleMania, but it really did seem to resurrect his, or breathe new life into his career here. After the burial, after AJ, or after his team of Gallows and Anderson left, it was a great match, great story. I'm really interested to see where they go.
Stay right there. The WWE podcast will return after this quick break.
Visit and shop today at somethingtolaughat.store. STLA merch is an online trendy and humorous fashion brand. T-shirts, beanies, hats, coffee mugs, phone cases, and more. Items for men, women, kids, and babies. Again, that's STLA merch at the website somethingtolaughat.store. Safe and secure processing. Excellent customer service. Check out their collections today. Merch to make you laugh, give you pride, give you good vibes. They've got great gifts for friends and family members as well. Go check it out today. That's somethingtolaughat.store. The STLA merch shop at somethingtolaughat.store. An online, trendy, and humorous fashion brand. Go fill your cart today.
Nobody likes the guy who says, "I told you so." The guy in 1991 who said to you, "Invest in the internet, it's going to be huge." Or the guy in 1997 who said, "Come on, this is going to be big. They call it social media." And the guy in 2009 who said, "I'm telling you, man, crypto is real." Now, I'm not going to be that guy who says, "I told you so." But I am telling you that there is a 21-year-old international company where you can become a global project partner, earning a passive income doing exactly what you're doing at this moment. No selling, no recruiting clients, no administering a business after hours. Visit www.mypassiveincome.life now. That's mypassiveincome.life. Don't let history repeat itself on this one. Earn a passive income. Now listen again. That's mypassiveincome.life.
Welcome back to the WWE podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
I will be happy if he defends it against, like I said, Nakamura, Cesaro, Sami Zayn when he comes back. Your real workhorses. But one thing that I always thought the Intercontinental Championship needs, and same thing with the U.S., is a long title reign, not hot potato, not, it's here, it's gone. I want to see the meaning of it, the champion, I want that prestige. I want someone to puff their chest out and say, I'm the Intercontinental Champion. And it's from like a lot of the books I've read, especially Chris Jericho's. He said his biggest thing was that he always wanted to be Intercontinental Champion. And it's because that was the workhorse belt, and that was always your best match. And then you look at it, and he's had more reigns than anybody else, including the New Japan, Intercontinental Championship. So I think that the Intercontinental Championship we grew up with is a lot different from what we have today. And if AJ Styles could be that guy to return it to its glory, I'll be so happy. And let him go on a nice long reign. Let him have, remember Brett versus Davey in Wembley? Mm-hmm. And it was the Intercontinental Championship was the last match. That was the headliner. We can get back to that if we just actually have some pride in the belt. And also, on a side note, I love that new belt. That's probably the best looking belt on the main roster right now, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but that being said, go ahead.
No, that's all right. No, I totally agree. And this whole thing was about, and to be honest with you, I feel like the Intercontinental Championship means more than Braun Strowman's. I mean, just the way that they positioned it, they showed all the legends who have held it.
Oh, the vignettes.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then you have Braun Strowman coming out there. He's doing silly crap with tipping over vehicles again, and he's got a Universal Championship that was literally just created out of thin air a number of years ago just to balance out champions on the brands. And yeah, I mean, Universal Championship has some prestige because Brock Lesnar held it for many, many, many months. and they've added value to that. But when I look at those two belts side by side, it's not even in the same stratosphere in terms of lineage, in terms of value, in terms of what it's meant to so many people's careers. I can't say the same thing for the Universal Championship. The Universal Championship right now is positioned to help make a guy rather than the guy making the belt. In this case, the Intercontinental Championship is made by the men that held it, whereas the Universal Championship is just kind of like this belt that is told to the viewers that is the top belt. But in reality, when you look at the true inner workings of this belt and you look at what the belt has done, I mean, you can make a case the IC belt is the top belt, but I mean, that's not the story they're going to tell, and I understand, but
of course,
I mean, I don't know. So the IC belt is back. I mean, the IC belt really here is the big winner.
You know, it's just, I think back, like some of my favorite Intercontinental champions, Mr. Perfect, because I believe that Kurt Hennig should have been a world champion besides, I think he was AWA world champion, but he should have been WWE world champion, but of course Hogan, can't put him down. Rick Rude. You want to talk about a guy that could just make people angry.
Oh, God, yeah.
Rick Rude was so amazing. And those tights and blowing the kiss, you just wanted to get up there and punch him. And I loved watching him because, one, he was great in the ring. But two, he could just garner heat by looking into the camera. That was Rick Rude. And that was like – and he was the only person to beat the Ultimate Warrior at the time. That's another little piece of history. He took the belt off Warrior. Of course, he had to, give it back after about 6 months, but the fact was no one had ever beaten the Ultimate Warrior. And then when he went into his world title program, I'll never forget, he was so good on the mic. He said, "Who's the only person to ever beat the Ultimate Warrior?" And they're like, "Well, that was you." And he's like, "Yes, so announce me as your next world champion." And he would make, Gene Okerlund or somebody say that, and that because he won that Intercontinental and he did it so well, you believed he was going to win the world championship. And that's what I loved about the Intercontinental title back then is you put your eyes on Rick Rude. You put your eyes on Mr. Perfect. You put your eyes on, Randy Savage. You put your eyes on all these people who, if they weren't in a main event program, and they all were, you knew something. You just knew that these were the guys to watch. They're supposed to be the future. Now, it doesn't always work that way. And, of course, between people passing away and just, Father Time and Hulk Hogan never wanted to do a job, it didn't always work out that way, but they were always garnered as above that mid-card. Because now everybody is mid-card. I hate that term, mid-card. A real mid-carder couldn't beat the Intercontinental Champion, but you could beat Coco Beware. And oh gosh, I just think about all those great champs, and I'm hoping that this belt and this title reign for Styles just goes to the moon.
Me too, and I hope this wasn't just we're going to do all this work and we're going to make it feel important and we're going to create an awesome tournament and have a great finals, and then AJ gets it and then it just gets put in. It's almost an afterthought on SmackDown. I unfortunately I could see that happening. I can also see the opposite. I'm not sure. And obviously time will tell if WWE indeed had a true vision for this championship rather than just the destination. To me, this is just the start of it. To me, this is not the destination, and I hope WWE does not look at this as the destination of, Intercontinental Championship's made, let's move on to the next thing. No, that now you're just not even doing the groundwork. You just laid the foundation, and you're not following through, and I hope there's follow through with this, where AJ's featured every week, and I believe he will. I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, given how much effort they put into this. And you're right about the mid-card deal. I mean, and I'm guilty of it, because for how many years and maybe it's the fault of WWE Creative, have positioned the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship as kind of the mid-card, because you look at the lower card, they're like kind of the jobbers, the people that occasionally win matches, and then there's the mid-card where, some of them become Intercontinental Champions, and you can even have Intercontinental Championship matches on the mid-card, and then there's the upper card, which is only the top belts. Well, you're right, framing this as really the top card, and it should be framed as the top of the card, that's what it should be. And I'm guilty of, because we've been told so for many years, that the Intercontinental Championship is kind of it's second rate to the top belt. It's kind of in your mid card. It shouldn't be any longer. It should not be. And I'm not saying to have it go one-on-one with or have some kind of stupid unification with the Universal Championship or anything like that. This is a belt that just has, honestly, probably more lineage than the WWE Championship belt does, if you really look back at what it's done. But I don't know. I hope that there's follow through. Is my point. I hope this is not just, oh, okay, we did it, we're done.
It would be great just to continue. Just continue where they're going with it. Especially the vignettes, I think, definitely made it special. But it's also the fact that you had two of the absolute best workers in a great match, and I'd like to see like some of those people that can work, like Mustafa Ali. Let's see him and AJ Styles go at it for 10 minutes on TV for the Intercontinental Championship. I think that'd be a great match. Mm-hmm. I think that there's so many things that they can build on. As long as you keep the belt on Styles for a while, it's got to be more than 6 months. It can't just be hot potato. It's got to be a nice, I'd even go a year long. Because Lord knows the honky tonk man. Oh, don't get me started. But I think that this could be like the beginning of adding the prestige back to a title. And I would say the same thing with the U.S. title with Apollo Crews, but that's neither here nor there right now. I hope they redesign that belt, because that is the most god-awful, ugly belt in the world, the U.S. title. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. I'm not anti-America. It's just an ugly belt. I like the old WCW version, with just a little red, white, and blue stripe on it instead of the whole thing looking like a flag. It's supposed to be championship gold, not championship colors. But anyway, different tangent, different time. You know how I can get sidebarred, so try not to. But yeah, I really think that this could be the great momentum to bring back that prestige. It's an easy main event. You can start out every show, because they got away from this in the 90s. Start out every show with, in tonight's main event, AJ Styles defends, the Intercontinental Championship against so-and-so and so-and-so. And then it gives us a main event, so we know what we're going to have at the end of the night. Gives us something to look forward to. And it makes it a headliner. And that's what I like about it.
No, very good. I mean, I think we've said it, right? I mean, I think that this is a program where we are actually excited about in WWE because of just of how well it was executed and the players involved. And it's also going to be interesting to see, not just with AJ Styles, but where does Daniel Bryan go from here? Does he re-challenge AJ Styles? I could see that. I could see where they continue this just because of the awesome chemistry these two have. So perhaps Daniel Bryan is involved. I don't think he'll win. As you said, AJ needs to go on a long run. It feels like a WrestleMania win where you need to keep the championship if you win it for at least 6 months. But all right. Well, the other thing I wanted to touch base on, and then we'll get into the Backlash predictions, is Paul Heyman being fired as the executive director of creative on Raw. Your thoughts on this?
There's nothing like a great cup of coffee. And Nautical Star Coffee carry delicious coffee in their online store that tastes amazing, and it's made fresh to order. Located in North Carolina, Nautical Star Coffee wants to be your go-to online coffee store. Like you, they were tired of the same old mediocre coffee that cost a fortune but had little flavor to show for it. At Nautical Star Coffee, there's no minimum purchase required. Sometimes you just want one bag of coffee, and that's fine with them. Their coffee is roasted, bagged, and shipped at the time of your order to ensure freshness. They search for the best coffee blends from Honduras, Colombia, and Costa Rica to give you the greatest cup of coffee. They're also veteran-owned and operated and truly value your coffee needs. If you want the coffee labeled with your own logo, let them know. They can do that for you. Perfect for restaurants that want to have their own coffee brand, and great for your local company or small business too. Start shopping right now at nauticalstarcoffee.com. That's nauticalstarcoffee.com.
Do you like sports? All sports? Then you have to check out the best independent sports podcast today, the Chase Thomas Podcast, where Chase puts out multiple episodes each week with sports writers and analysts from ESPN, The Ringer, Sports Illustrated, The Athletic, Pro Football Focus, and so many others. Visit ChaseThomasPodcast.com. That's ChaseThomasPodcast.com to learn more, and follow Chase on Twitter at Chase_Thomas. That's on Twitter at Chase_Thomas. Guys, if you love sports, you're going to love this podcast. Check out the Chase Thomas Podcast today.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
I hate it. He's all about pushing new talent and developing new talent. And even though he had the handcuffs on working with McMahon, the problem here is I don't want to see Apollo Crews hot potato his belt over back to Andrade. I don't want to see all these people who've been around for over 10 years continuing to bulldoze over small or lesser named or NXT call-ups. And Paul Heyman, he has good and bad. But a lot of people, if they didn't see ECW in its heyday, he was taking people like the Sandman, who was supposed to have a surfer gimmick, and he made him to a guy with a cane that beat people senseless, and he was always drunk. But we bought that. We didn't buy the guy that wore a wetsuit to the ring. Same thing with Tommy Dreamer. He was supposed to be a Chippendale, and what he turned him into, the hardest working man who almost killed himself every night. And Paul Heyman could have done a lot more, I think, with the talent. I just think that he had the shackles on, and I'm really upset about this firing, especially with Bruce Pritchard being in charge of everything. Bruce is a smart guy. He was brought back to replace Bischoff. He's the only guy that knows how to talk to Vince McMahon, supposedly. And I think Vince has given him the old Jim Henson, if you know what I mean. And he's just a puppet. And it's sad. And I think that we're going to get more of McMahon's delusional vision of wrestling, especially if it has a lot to do with these cinematic matches. I really don't want that. And I just think that firing Heyman was the dumbest thing they could have done at this point. They should have just gave him free rein and said, do what you want to do.
Well, time will tell on this. I mean, again, it's hard to talk about something that we know very little about, given that we're not in the production meetings. We don't know what ideas Paul Heyman's pitching. That maybe they're terrible. We don't know. But given what we know about Paul, how many podcasts he's been on, how many interviews he's done, we kind of understand the mind of Paul Heyman, and we know what version of professional wrestling that he likes to adhere to. We kind of understand the basics about what he likes to do and push and present. And given that Bruce Pritchard seems to be kind of on the opposite spectrum, an intelligent guy, but seems to know how to, like you said, he has Vince's ear. He knows how to give Vince what Vince wants. And we've talked about it on this show, that the writers write for Vince. They don't write for what they think is probably the best for a TV production. They write for what would Vince want. And that's counterproductive because of the fear of their jobs. And I know that I get it, and I would probably do the same thing if I thought I was going to get fired, but it's not the best business decision for an on-air presentation. So with Paul Heyman gone, I mean, time will tell if things improve. I didn't actually think they were that bad anyway. I wasn't here going, oh my God, they need a huge creative change. What the hell's going on? And I didn't feel like that. I mean, everyone has fallen victim to the coronavirus, meaning there's no crowd interaction. So how do we know what the crowd would have reacted to had the pandemic not happened over the last 3 months? And the crowd maybe would have supported an idea that Paul Heyman put on air, and therefore Paul may have his job. But we'll never know. Without the crowd reaction, it's just kind of it's empty. So I guess I'm disappointed because of what we think Paul Heyman was like backstage and the ideas he would present. But it's hard to it's hard to comment on assumptions. So I guess I'm disappointed, but I can't tear WWE a new one because I don't know. I'm not involved in the production meetings and the conference calls that they have and all that kind of stuff of where to go creatively. Who the hell knows what Paul Heyman was pitching? We'll never know. Maybe on a podcast in a tell-all if he ever leaves WWE. Who knows? Maybe he'll John Moxley it over on Jericho's podcast. I don't know. But with Paul Heyman still in WWE, I'm glad he's still there. I don't think that Paul Heyman really could ever be fired. And I say that as long as Brock is there. Because Brock is the overarching and really safety net for Paul Heyman. Because Brock needs Paul Heyman. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Unless you want to have Brock coming out there cutting awkward promos or just kind of standing there and not doing much or only letting his in-ring work do the talking, I don't think so. Paul Heyman can talk people into the seats. Paul Heyman is pretty much immune as long as Brock Lesnar stays active in WWE.
You know, there's only one person that could replace Paul Heyman, and you know who it is. He lives right here in town in Louisville. And that's James E. Cornette. And that would be the weirdest pairing ever. But that's the only other person that could put the people out there like that. And yeah, Paul Heyman is never going to go away. As long as Brock Lesnar has a job, Paul Heyman is going to be his mouthpiece. It's like you said. I remember the Big Show feud with him from like 2001, 2002.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like when Paul Heyman switched over to like helping out the Big Show, when Brock would try to cut a promo or anything, it was just so awkward.
It was weird.
It was heinous. And but don't tell Brock I said that if he asks. I said everything really nice. But yeah, and so I really think that it's with Bruce Pritchard being a yes man and basically doing whatever Vince wants, so Vince is smiling. I got a bad feeling for the next couple of years. And you got to remember something, and I'm going to point this out. Who has the worst ratings, Raw or SmackDown? Because I believe it's SmackDown, and that's what Bruce was in charge of. But yet, most of the flack I hear is that Paul was under the microscope for the bad ratings. Well, if you have like 6 suggestions and you only use one because you want to go with your other 5 of your own, Vince, you did this to yourself. And what you took... Not every painting is a masterpiece. But if you paint enough, something's going to be out there that's beautiful that you make. But if you keep painting the same picture over and over again, no one wants to look at it. And that's what I think has happened. And Bruce is there to kiss his backside and tell him everything he wants and make sure he has a Fresca at noon. And, you know, this is not good, I think, for Raw. Because why don't you and I wait a month? We'll see what happens and see if we get stuck in a rut or maybe we see something creative. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'm fine for it. I think that Bruce Pritchard is going to be stretched a little thin in his creative energies on Raw and SmackDown, covering all angles and getting everything approved, not being able to focus your efforts on just one brand and having to do it on 2 means we're only going to get half of his energy that is possible on this. So we're only seeing, I think, to Bruce's defense, half of what he probably is capable of. It's just math. I mean, I don't think that if I was in charge of one brand versus 2, I would rather be in charge of one brand and make it awesome and put all of my efforts into making sure it was awesome than kind of splitting my time into 2 going, okay, well, I got to get this done. I got to get this approved. Does this make sense? Yeah. Instead of diving deep into what I could do, it's just kind of like an overview, it feels like. And it's, to me, I mean, again, it's hard to judge something that we haven't seen yet. We're going to find out. But you're right with James Cornette. I mean, God, I would love to see him. I mean, I know people hate his guts. I love his podcast. I know people are like, he's such a jerk. Personally, I love him. Not everything. He does say, sometimes it's like, I don't know if I 100% agree, but like 98% of what he says is just pure gold. And I love it. But, Brock Lesnar has to have Paul Heyman. You're right about 2001. That was at the Rumble, I believe, that Paul Heyman turned on Brock and helped the Big Show win in their match. And then I was in an arena in Albany after that happened, and he tried to cut a promo on Paul Heyman, and it was so bad that they actually edited the whole thing out of SmackDown when it aired. Like, the entire promo was cut. Just because of how bad it was. They actually had to do it twice because it wasn't live. It was taped on Tuesdays. It wasn't live. He cut it. It was like a 10-minute promo, even at 16 years old, I'm going, this is bad. And he ended up trying twice. They cut the whole thing. And so, yeah, Brock Lesnar's never been known to be a great talker. He has never been known to do that. He is known for his presence, his credentials, his in-ring ability, his look, and that it factor that he has. He has all that. He is absolute money, and you could argue, and is still the biggest star WWE currently has signed. I would argue that. But with him not there often, it's kind of hard to, I guess, validate maybe Paul Heyman being there. But if Brock comes out, you need him to speak. And that's how Paul Heyman makes his living right now. So, any final thoughts on the Paul Heyman?
One thing I knew about Heyman was that he always tried to take lemons and turn it into lemonade. And, he had to do it a lot of times with ECW, especially when the talent got raided to the big two back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, before he went under. He was trying to put on pay-per-views and make main events out of people that were his underneath guys a year earlier, like C.W. Anderson. I watched some of this the other day, and so I believe I think that he was probably behind the Apollo push, although you and I speculate a little bit more. I think Angel Garza's push is Paul Heyman. I think that just some of the angles, they reek of Paul Heyman, that he just got him by Vince and, made him happy with it on a basic level. Oh, we won't feature him. He'll be in the first segment or the second segment, so you don't have to worry about it. But I think he was creating people. And at this point, if Bruce can't do it, the only other person that I think that they might put in charge of this, and you're going to laugh, but I'm going to throw this out there, Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to laugh at that. I think I would like to see it, but I don't think Jeff Jarrett would be interested. And I don't think right now. I know he has his quick stint with Elias, I don't know, about a year or whatever it was ago. I don't know now. I don't know if he would be honestly open to that. You'd have to ask Jeff, but to be honest with you, sure, I would be all for it. And it's funny you mentioned Angel Garza, because as I'm reading this story on a unnamed website that we all know what they are, but apparently Vince did not know that Angel Garza, who he was, until he was about to make his main roster debut. So that tells you right there that Vince McMahon does not keep an eye on NXT. He only really cares when they're talking about bringing somebody up, and it shows you where Vince McMahon's focus is at, that he didn't even know about Angel Garza until he was about to debut on the main roster. So
you look at it, Dusty's dead. Okay, you've got Lawler, but he only knew about pushing himself down in Memphis, which worked, but that was just in Memphis. You've got Flair. So, these are the potential people I think in my mind that might be able to take the position. The Graham brothers are dead, or at least one of them. I think Mike Graham committed suicide or something like that. So you can't use them, and they were the brilliance of Florida. And I just don't know who's out there. And he does, like I said, he has Jeff on the payroll. I could see him saying, all right, well, you did something with your TNA, so how about you give me a couple ideas, but I'll probably fire you in 6 months, and ask Bischoff how he's doing on your way out.
I don't know. Bruce Pritchard right now has probably got a monumental amount of pressure on himself. I do not envy his position. I don't agree with all of his creative decisions, but I do not envy him in his position of being in charge of really the final say, although really Vince has the final say of what creative direction they're going. And so Bruce Pritchard has got his hands full over the next X amount of weeks or months, however long this lasts. And maybe it lasts for however long, but it seems to be that Bruce Pritchard is giving Vince the version of professional wrestling that Vince feels WWE is. And, you and I typically don't agree with that. But yet again, we see Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles as the true main event of SmackDown. Why the hell this was not the main event of SmackDown is beyond me. Why it had to be a 6-man tag that ended up with Jelly Belly Otis, who is really starting to me I mean, I know this isn't the Backlash here. We'll get to Backlash in a minute, but like Otis to me is really starting to decline in terms of my support of his character and the way that they're presenting him. I am really, really on the decline with everything that they've done with Otis since he became really with Heavy Machinery, and Vince goes, oh, we got something here. We got a funny guy. And they just took him from Heavy Machinery and made him win Money in the Bank, get the girl, get the win at WrestleMania, use Scotty 2 Hottie's worm and call it the Caterpillar, and his elbow drop is somehow a finish, and really present him in this wacky wear tank tops 5 sizes too small and exacerbate his obsession with food, and Vince is sitting there knee slapping backstage. And to me, this is damaging the hell out of Otis's character. I would be very interested to hear a live crowd reaction to this. I think it would decline by the week. I think that WWE would start to hear the boos for Otis. I really do. And just because of how much damage they've done, they did him such a disservice. They didn't let him even breathe at Heavy Machinery. Tucker has all been but forgotten. They never allowed him to just grow and develop as a tag team, and then just decide to pull him out of the tag team and go, we got some plans for you, pal. I mean, and they're killing him. Vince is killing him right now. At least that's how I'm viewing it.
He's the new Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
He is overexposed, and the guy can work, but I don't want to see him working like a goof. It's like you and I talked about this a long time ago when they first came out. And they were acting like the bushwhackers, doing the bushwhacker walk. And Daniel Bryan called him out, and he's like, be the sheepherders, not the bushwhackers. I love that line because it means a lot to me as far as a lot of things go as far as wrestlers. But the fact that he's there all the time, and the dream sequences, please. God, they're killing me with the cinematic stuff. But yeah, he's being made fun of to his face, because Vince doesn't like people who are out of shape. And it makes me so upset because I know if this was 30 years ago, he would have a name like World Destroyer and be going against Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Because he's the big out of shape guy. And I'm not going to get on our tangents. I know we've got business to take care of tonight, but yeah, that's just the way I feel right now, is that he's overexposed. He's there all the time. He acts like a goof. I really think, like you said, in a live audience, I think they would turn on him in a heartbeat, and then they wouldn't know what to do, because you've got Bruce Pritchard having 50 writers tell him the same thing about the same story, which doesn't have anything to do with Otis, and all of a sudden they're standing there with their hands in the air going, I don't know. Oh, sorry.
No, I really, really think that this is really, if this was honestly in a live format, WWE would probably be rethinking how they're doing this. But since there's no consequences and really the kids can play when the parents aren't home, well, that's what they're doing. WWE is just kind of really doing whatever the hell they want, because outside of social media, which isn't really, it's sometimes a true representation of how fans would react, they have no consequences. None. Other than declining ratings, which is the biggest talker of them all. I mean, like, you're right though. Otis would probably, if this was, however many years ago, he would probably be known as the Shockmaster, right? Like, I mean,
yes, absolutely.
He feels like the Shockmaster. When you look at the Shockmaster's body type, like, that's how he would be, that's how I view him. He's just like a bumbling buffoon that, he's a lovable working man. No, he's not. He's not anymore to me. Like you said, he's being overexposed. I didn't want this much Otis. I wasn't the one crying for this. I don't know who was going, we need more Otis. I can't wait till he gets a singles push. No, he was kind of enjoyable. We all knew he was the star of the team. We all knew eventually he would break off and be whatever he was going to be. But this felt really premature. And he is a tag team of which WWE desperately needs tag teams. And yeah, he's got Mandy Rose, but like, it's not even fun to watch that anymore. Like, and the dream thing, apparently WWE can somehow now record your dreams and be able to play them on TV. And it's just, it's the overproduction deal again. All right, yeah. Ugh.
And I'll say one more thing. If you and I are having a hard time with Otis now, all you Montez Ford fans, you just get ready because he's next.
Oh, yes. Yeah, good point. Montez Ford. And what do you think they're doing with them on a weekly basis? Doing bowling contests and basketball and like whatever nonsensical garbage they're doing with them. They're wasting the hell out of Montez Ford's talent. Like, how can you tell me that those guys can't find a spot on Monday Night Raw? Ultra talented. Montez Ford is one of the most athletic guys, and I think I told you this. I thought he died. Like I thought he's dead. I mean, the bump he took on the ramp. Oh my God! And they are just. I don't know what they're doing. Why Vince needs to have the obligatory terrible attempt at comedy segment every single show is beyond me. I don't know why there always needs to be forced humor with guys that belong in the ring and are allegedly being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be in a ring to compete instead of cameras following them to the local bowling alley. I mean, it just all right.
Nobody likes the guy who says, "I told you so." The guy in 1991 who said to you, "Invest in the internet, it's going to be huge." Or the guy in 1997 who said, "Come on, this is going to be big. They call it social media." And the guy in 2009 who said, "I'm telling you, man, crypto is real." Now, I'm not going to be that guy who says, "I told you so." But I am telling you that there is a 21-year-old international company where you can become a global project partner, earning a passive income doing exactly what you're doing at this moment. No selling, no recruiting clients, no administering a business after hours. Visit www.mypassiveincome.life now. That's mypassiveincome.life. Don't let history repeat itself on this one. Earn a passive income. Now listen again. That's mypassiveincome.life.
Visit and shop today at somethingtolaughat.store. STLA Merch is an online trendy and humorous fashion brand. T-shirts, beanies, hats, coffee mugs, phone cases, and more. Items for men, women, kids, and babies. Again, that's STLA Merch at the website somethingtolaughat.store. Safe and secure processing. Excellent customer service. Check out their collections today. Merch to make you laugh, give you pride, give you good vibes. They've got great gifts for friends and family members as well. Go check it out today. That's somethingtolaughat.store, the STLA merch shop at somethingtolaughat.store. An online, trendy, and humorous fashion brand. Go fill your cart today.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
It insults our intelligence, for one. For two, and I'll keep this brief because I know we haven't even touched on what we're actually here to talk about.
I know.
But this is what I love about talking to you, man. We just do this. But no, he's going to be the next one to get overexposed. I mean, it's they've been talking about this since they were down in NXT. How Montez Ford is going to be the Shawn Michaels of the group. I got news for you, guy. You're about 220 pounds. You're a little small for Vince's radar, but you're going to be one heck of a U.S. champion. And also, I didn't know if you realize that Vince only pushes so many people that are African American.
I mean, Vince does not have a good track record. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I'm keeping it away from that.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, he's going to get overexposed. They're going to have a lot of segments with him and Bianca, and Dawkins. I feel bad for him. He's going to be pushed to the wayside. He'll probably end up forming a tag team with somebody like Chad Gable or somebody else that they don't know what to do with. But stop thinking about your tag teams as two potential single stars. Let a tag team be a tag team, and that's what would save Otis right now. If he was out there with Heavy Machinery, if they actually wrestled and did some cool stuff, honestly, they've stayed healthier than the Authors of Pain. But yet the Authors of Pain, didn't they have a WWE Tag Team Championship on the main roster?
I think they have, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for about a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been Heavy Machinery. And you could have developed the characters more with that, but don't make them the Bushwhackers. And just stop highlighting one person. And I don't even want to get into where that Money in the Bank is going to go because I just have dumb feelings. I think he's going to give it to her, and she's going to use it to win like a woman's title or something. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move forward, sir.
Yeah, no. She's. I mean, it's just. I mean, I guess the last thing on this is you're right about if he gives it to Mandy, like, I mean, he's the biggest fool of all time. And number two, how is that even possible given that the women had their own match? I mean, like, the logistics of it, I wouldn't put it past WWE to go, well, fans don't care about the details. Yeah, well, no, we do, because it makes no sense. But yeah, I could see him being foolish enough to do that, and then ultimately Mandy has just been using him the whole time for it. I mean, sure, I could see that. But the whole problem with this has been Otis was getting over naturally in his tag team, and eventually, again, they would eventually, I think, have broken up, just as most tag teams do. Most do.
Yes.
And so that's just the nature of it. But give it a couple of years. They didn't even let Otis grow, and the fans were getting behind him naturally. You're going to kind of go, oh, this guy's kind of funny, or not funny, but he's kind of entertaining, yet he's a big guy, so he can turn it on when he wants to. And they never gave him that opportunity to grow and really let the fans organically get behind him. Instead, Vince goes, oh, funny guy, take him out quick. I see something in him. And they immediately took him and just, he's not champion, but they put him on your TV way more than they should. They took him out of a tag team that was working very well, and they made him Mr. Money in the Bank, which was a huge mistake.
Yeah, that was terrible, yeah.
God, all right.
Bleach my eyes. Okay.
Seriously. All right, let's move on. Backlash is Sunday, and tomorrow. Jeez, that was quick. I don't know what day is anymore. This whole quarantine thing, I know we're kind of phasing out of it, but I don't even know what day is anymore. So, all right, let's start here with Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. What are your thoughts on this? Do you like the program, and who's going to win?
I don't know how I feel about the program, to be honest with you. I think Jeff Hardy's being punished in some way. I'm going to put all the money on Sheamus on this one because, one, Jeff Hardy's really talented and Sheamus isn't as talented. Sheamus has always been a company guy that likes to work out next to the nephew, or the son-in-law, excuse me. And they've always had a thing for, pushing Sheamus to the moon. With that being said, Jeff Hardy keeps getting in trouble. He shoots himself in the foot. And I feel also that this is like a punishment for his brother going to AEW, even though they're the ones who let him go. And so I'm going to put all my eggs in the basket of Sheamus. I don't see anything that'll stop it. I can almost even see it being like one of those deals where like he gives him like 4 white noise in a row and oh my God, he's dead. I think they're really going to hurt Jeff Hardy here. And this is their way of saying, stop screwing up. Honestly, I mean, I was surprised that he survived the furlough and all the roster cuts. And so, yeah, I'm going with Sheamus on this one. And I still think I'm going to stick by my guns and say this is a punishment.
It does kind of feel a little close to home, doesn't it? With really, I guess, taking advantage of or exposing his real world struggles with his on-air story. And you know what? There are times when I totally agree with it, and it makes sense to bring in real life to the story. And it is something different that Jeff Hardy has done on air. I mean, I don't remember him in any kind of dynamic like this with people calling him a junkie. And this past week on SmackDown, I don't know about you, but I don't know if my bladder is even at full capacity able to fill that jar the way that Jeff Hardy's apparent urine filled.
Please.
I mean, seriously, I don't even know it. Even when I was back in my college days drinking, and as you drink, you tend to go to the bathroom a lot. I don't think I've ever produced that much. I mean, it was a lot. And furthermore, if Jeff Hardy threw that in the face of Sheamus, wouldn't Sheamus want to immediately grab a towel, take his shirt off, wipe his face? Instead, he's just sitting there going with his tongue out. What? It was just
bad TV.
It was just bad. Like, if someone literally threw urine in my face, I wouldn't sit there. I would not sit there and just placate for the camera. It was a little bit hokey, but nonetheless, this match, you're right. I think Sheamus wins. So that's my pick, but I'm not 100%, I'm not as confident as you. And the reason I say that is because if I could see also Jeff Hardy winning, getting some kind of, fluke win or whatever WWE does with their roll-up now. I mean, that's like the greatest finish of all time in WWE right now. Like, that is the greatest, most destructive, devastating finish maneuver in WWE right now is the roll-up.
Yes.
I mean, so I could see that happening, getting a fluke win, and then Sheamus losing his mind and beating Jeff Hardy into a bloody pulp, continuing the program. So if Jeff Hardy wins, he's going to get his backside destroyed at the end of this match.
Yes.
So that to me is a close second. I could see it, but to me, I think Sheamus gets a pretty decisive victory in this program.
Yeah, and like I said, for some reason, the McMahons have always loved Sheamus. I don't get it. I kind of put him in the same category as The Miz. He's not a reality show guy, but here's my thing about Sheamus. He's plain. He's a 5. Like, I've never seen one of his matches where I said, wow, you have to watch a Sheamus match. I've never had that moment. And while he's good and he's serviceable, there's just something about him that, like, I watch it and I'm like, I don't get it. It's the same 10 moves. And if he loses, it's usually the roll-up of doom. And if he wins, he looks like some kind of huge brute beast. And half the time you want whoever he's wrestling, like Cesaro or anybody who actually has like a lot of talent, to go over. And like, there's just nothing about him that ever pops me. Never. And I mean, Lord knows if I met the guy on the street, he'd beat me into a pulp in like 5 seconds. He's lucky he doesn't beat me and hurt me. But when it comes down to it, like, I've never seen anything from the guy that said this is a must-see match. And I like I said, I feel like it's a punishment for Hardy. Although I will give them this. They put legs underneath it. They've been building it. This wasn't 1 week away and all of a sudden he attacks Jeff Hardy. So I'll give them the fact that they're building story. So with that being said, I hope it's a blow off. I hope this is it. And, but yeah, I'm doing a huge prediction for Sheamus here because they love him. He's a big guy.
They do. They have some kind of love affair with him, and I don't see the attractiveness other than big guy, reliable from what I understand, looks the part, cuts good promos. Nothing blow away, but not bad. Just kind of like just averagely good. He cuts good promos. It's just he's missing something that makes me want to see him. It's that it factor that he has or doesn't have that makes me go, oh, I can't wait. Well, no, Sheamus is just there. I would have him on my roster. If I was creating a roster, he'd be like my 20th, 30th pick, but he'd be there because he's a big guy that looks the part, can cut a good promo, but he's never going to be that top guy. He just isn't. And so, I mean, they've tried it. Sheamus has been WWE champion before. So, to me, Sheamus wins this. It's been about Sheamus. This is not about Jeff Hardy. And to be totally frank, if I was WWE, I would be a little bit leery about putting any kind of momentum behind Jeff Hardy, given his track record. I mean, the latest DWI he had, or DWAI, was 2018. I mean, so
yeah.
Would I put my stock in Jeff Hardy? No, I wouldn't, and rightfully so. He's shown you time and again he can't be trusted. So I would just get what I can out of Jeff Hardy for now. And to me, Sheamus has proven the more reliable guy. He's a good heel, not great, just good. And he can work with a lot of guys. And so to me, Sheamus needs to win this more than I think Jeff Hardy does.
Yeah, that's basically, in my opinion, the way it's going to go down is Sheamus gets it. I think Sheamus is going to do a heinous beatdown, maybe set up one more minor pay-per-view before SummerSlam. And then, of course, 50-50 booking. Jeff will get his win back. But there's, like I said, at least they put a story into it. They've been working on it. So that's a lot more than we get with most events these days. It's, I challenge you. Well, challenge accepted. Well, don't you have to go through people? Oh, that's right. We're going to have one of those, contract signings that no one knows. But what I'm seeing right now is the fact that there was some thought in this. Reality amped up and turned up is great. I just don't think that, the guy's got a problem. You shouldn't make fun of that problem. You can use some certain slight elements, but you're really airing somebody's personal laundry, and I don't think that's cool. So that's just me, and it's not like I want kiddie friendly, everything, but there are other ways that it could have been done, especially the whole, wrecked car. Where's Jeff? That was just poor taste. There's other ways to do this stuff. You want to talk about someone's drinking problem? Find him. You can have a vignette where you go into the locker room, he's passed out. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. But saying that he almost, tried to kill Elias and all, it's just so low rent. There's other ways to do things to make it more palatable, make it more visually appealing, and not make it look like it's a blatant
exposure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Blatant exposure. The guy's got a problem. Okay. Let's not celebrate it. You should be helping him. If you really want to help the guy and you have your wellness policy, let's put him in rehab for 6 months.
Yeah. They are seem to be making light of people who do really have real problems. And Jeff, I'm sure, still struggles with it on a daily basis. And, I hope things work out for him. And assuming, and I don't know, but assuming he signed off on this, we'll never know. I mean, he may have just gone up to TV or shown up to TV, and they tell him, "Hey, Jeff, this is what you're doing. You're cool with it, right?" And he's just like, "Yeah, man, whatever." And in the inside, he's probably like, "Yo, what the f are they doing?" Right? Like, they're taking my real life struggles and arrests and making them basically an on-air story. I mean, who knows how he actually feels? Maybe he's fine with it. We don't know. But
it could have been his idea.
Yeah.
You don't know. But to me, like I said, there's ways to do it and there's ways not to do it, and I just think it's really in poor taste, and I'm not going to get up on the soapbox. So, sir,
Alrighty. United States Championship match: Apollo Crews versus Andrade. My thoughts: Apollo Crews wins, and for several reasons. Number one, he just won it, right? Like, typically you don't change championships within the first month that person wins it. Typically. Would I have him as champion right now? No. I think Andrade was frankly a better champion. I think he's got a much more of an it factor than Apollo Crews does, who's been hanging around for several years and has yet to really grab an audience. At least that's my thinking. To me, Andrade feels more like a champion. Granted, Apollo has been defined down for many, many years, so that's probably skewing my thinking. But so there's that. But there's also, I mean, let's be frank, there's the race card here, and it is just the current environment in which we're in. And you and I have said it. We're fine with it, but we're just pointing out a fact that WWE is. You can bet your bottom dollar, given they are a public entity now, and they've put out statements about all the riots and things going on, you can bet your bottom dollar that they are valuing and being extra careful with how they position their black or African American. I mean, I don't know what's offensive and what's not anymore. Let's just call them black because I'm white and they're black, whatever. That their black stars are being carefully looked at and that they are being carefully presented. You can bet.
Showcased.
Yeah, exactly. You know what though? If I was them, I probably would be extra careful too, because of the very hostile environment right now. So even if that wasn't the case and the riots didn't exist, I would still keep Apollo Crews as champion. But this, I think, kind of cements it even further that Apollo Crews remains champion. So what do you think?
I see Apollo retaining for multiple reasons. One, like we just discussed, this is a time of turmoil where we don't know what's going on. There are riots. You and I spoke off, before the recording, and what's going on down here, and it's just, it's crazy. And with this being said, everybody knows that neither Matt nor myself are racist, not in any way, shape, or form. So, but I see this as a partly racially motivated. Now, here's the other thing. I love Crews, and I love Crews. The guy is so super talented, but he was pushed to the main roster way too much, or way too fast. He can do anything. Unfortunately, I think he's the next Dolph Ziggler. Because he's so in-ring talented, even though some of his matches with Andrade were a little sloppy for me. But the fact is, I think that the winner here is going to be us, because I think they're going to put on a great match. And I think if they get told we get 12 minutes, I think they're just going to go out there and say, hey, we might not have this again, so let's turn it up. And that depends on Vince also. yes, with today's politics and everything else, it makes sense for Apollo to retain. But I like I said, if you just go back to his Uhaa Nation years and you see the stuff he did, the guy is so incredibly talented, and so is Andrade. And I will agree with you that I think Andrade was doing more for the title at the time. And a lot of that's Zelina Vega. She is so incredibly amazing. Not just to look at, but her talents. I'm surprised she's not a women's champion already and they haven't worked her into a program, but I feel that's probably, about 6 months to a year away. But the fact is, like, she's a great mouthpiece. Andrade plays the part. And he's going nowhere, especially if you're engaged to Charlotte Flair. You're going to get some considerations in the future. So but he did have more charisma. He did have more drawing power, and he did have that smarmy putting people in seats. He had that draw factor. Cruz doesn't have that. They got to drop the smiling, the whole I'm happy to be here. It's the same reason that ACH quit the company, down in NXT. It's almost a self-parody of the thing that everybody is against. I think that there's a character inside Apollo. They just need to open it up. And they haven't hit that yet. They haven't found his character. Right now, we're just seeing wrestler. We're not seeing what this guy can really do. When he did his stuff as Uhaa Nation, he wasn't a character because he didn't have to, because a lot of it was in Japan and PWG and Wrestle Circus and smaller companies. You didn't have to cut promos and you didn't have to create a character. There's a character. They just need to find it. And I'm not going to say it's like The Rock where all of a sudden he turns heel, but I think Apollo is going to do his best work once he becomes a heel. And when he does, I think that's when we're going to see who he should be right now and why we should be watching him. Yes, Andrade was a better champ, but Apollo retains.
Cool. No, I'm not saying that Apollo Crews does not have an inside character that we haven't seen. I think he does. It's just we've only seen the smiling, happy-go-lucky, oh, super athletic, but oh, shucks, I lost. I'll get him next time kind of attitude. I mean, that doesn't get a character too far. It's very superficial. It's stomach churning. It's channel changing, if you ask me. But Apollo Crews is, I mean, you look at him, he's got an amazing physique. He's close to Bobby Lashley's look. He's got something. I just don't know what it is. You want to shake him and be like, who's really in there? And yes. I know that there's something in there that, and maybe it is a heel version of himself. If it is, great, but I don't think we'll see that for a while, given, again, the political nature. Do you really want to turn the black guy into the bad guy? You got to think of all these things. I think that he'll remain as is in terms of character positioning for the time being, and probably carry the United States Championship for quite some time. I would think for months, probably past SummerSlam, maybe into the fall. I could see it. And yes, given the current political environment, yeah, that's a factor. You'd be a fool not to think that has no factor in the WWE presentation. They are extremely vigilant and perceptive and sensitive to the perception of them. And with all of the things that they do charity-wise and everything else, if you think that they're not looking at this and going, we should probably keep him champion for a while, given the current environment, you're just not paying attention, I think. I mean, so, all right. Any final thoughts on this in the interest of time?
Just in the interest of time, I think it'll be a decent match if they just let them do what they want to do, and you don't age it too much, you don't overproduce it too much. I know a lot of this stuff is already shot and probably put in the can, but a huge fan of Andrade, huge fan of Apollo, and I really know that they could have some magical matches. I just don't think that they're allowed to do what they want to do, and I think that Kevin Dunn sleeping in the truck because some of the matches they've had, just there's been bad views, bad shots of a botch here or a botch there, and it's like, I'm not used to these guys botching like this. So with that being said, I hope it's a great match. That's all I can say.
Yep, I think it will be. I mean, it could be a sleeper match. I mean, not to be pun intended with Kevin Dunn, but it could be a sleeper match where we are underestimating them and they over-deliver. and if given enough time. So I'm looking forward to it. All right,
Okay.
Women's Tag Team Championship match. Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Iconics in basically the entire women's tag team division in a single match.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Who's going to win?
Sasha and Bayley. But honestly, I also have this weird Iconic vibe. And here's the thing. They've worked really hard. They've improved a lot. They're still not top tier. And that's not me being rude. It's just the fact that Sasha is one of the great, and so is Bayley, like some of the greatest female competitors in the world, period. Alexa Bliss, I think, can garner heat like no one's business. She's good, but I wouldn't put her quite on the same echelon as the other two. And then Nikki Cross can do anything she wants. She's not the world's greatest performer, but she's crazy. You believe it. But the Iconics are the ones that just keep getting the spotlight. They were the ones that, won at WrestleMania for no good reason. And everybody just went, why? I think that it's probably going to be Sasha and Bayley retaining, or just that you got to go with that at this point. It makes the most sense, but I still see the Iconics getting the rub here somehow, kind of like an Aleister Black match. No matter who he wrestles, somebody else looks better.
That's a funny analogy. Yeah, that's really true. And so my pick, I think that it's a retaining. Bayley and Sasha retain their championship, and I don't think that there's any reason to drop it yet, simply because they just won. Bayley as double champion is she's found her stroke. She has found who that heel Bayley character is. For a while, She was kind of toiling around like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just going to kind of cut my hair and look like I'm miserable. And now she's being obnoxious. She feels natural. She's just a pain in the neck. You want to see somebody beat her. Bayley has really, really, I think, gone from the sidekick of Sasha to, really being Sasha being the sidekick. And it's been a great, great story for Bayley over the last several months. So to me, she's the big story. Yes, Sasha Banks is eventually going to get sick of Bayley, and we get the inevitable Bayley versus Sasha match, and I'm fine with it. I've kind of come to terms with it. It's been long enough that these two haven't been back and forth. It's been many, many, many months, if not a couple of years now, that these two have been on the same page. There's been no waffling back and forth, and they're playing the long game with Sasha and Bayley. I'm for it. Fine. Maybe they're waiting until they get back in front of fans. I'd even wait that long, however many months that is. Sasha or Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, good team. They have chemistry. I think Nikki Cross has I think I told you this, she has a little Victoria in her, where she's just psychotic, and I could see her eventually turning on Alexa too. But again, I keep talking about these turns. The fact of the matter is, as I said at the top here, they have no other teams, I don't believe, in the women's tag team division that they can go. This is it, right? Who else are you going to put against these teams? So when I talk about splitting up, well, then you'd have no tag team division in the women. So there's that too. But the Iconics, you're right. I get a bit of a vibe that they could capture the belt at some point in the near future. They did win at WrestleMania, and then they went into no man's land. They went nowhere.
Yes.
They just disappeared. They went in hiding, and it was until the Kabuki Warriors and Paige ended up confronting them or something. So I love the Iconics more than most. I think they are obnoxiously good at what they do, particularly Billie Kay. And so I think a championship run in their future is inevitable, probably sometime in 2020. But for now, Bayley and Sasha, I think, retain the belts by hook or crook.
It's just the way it needs to go. They've had so many titles change places right before Backlash that, short of Drew McIntyre losing, and we'll get to that down the road, there's nothing that could be a real shock. So I don't want to see hot potato. We've both agreed on that. Like, if we're going to make these belts mean something, you got to stick with them. You got to stick with them, and you got to make the champions mean something. But it's so weird to have so many belts be on fresh people right before this pay-per-view. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot on the booking on this one, I think.
Yeah, I think they did. And I'm not expecting a whole lot from this match other than Bayley and Sasha retaining and Bayley coming back on SmackDown and bragging and getting more annoying. That is something I'm looking forward to. I'm enjoying Bayley being a complete obnoxious witch. Yeah, it's great. I love it. So I think that's what's going to be happening here. All right, Raw Women's Championship, Asuka versus Nia Jax. Take it away.
Asuka. And I'll tell you why. Because Nia Jax keeps hurting people. She needs to stop. And I like Nia Jax. And you and I have discussed the fact that I like all body styles because it's boring if everybody's a swimsuit model. It's boring if everybody's a big knuckle-dragging Neanderthal like Sheamus. And I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying he's huge. He's a giant guy. So if we have the same thing over and over and over again, we don't have any kind of conflict. And I think it's going to be a lot better than we are anticipating because I think Nia Jax has probably been put under the microscope and been very disciplined. She's not winning this match. It would be another case of hot potato. And what's Asuka? 40 days into her reign now? Maybe something like that. So you take it off her, it's just going to be really stupid. I like some of the visual games with the, Nia coming out painted up like her, stuff like that. Push that. Keep going with that. I think that's really cool. But Nia's not Asuka. And while she had her moment and she had all the things with like Ronda Rousey and everything else, and Bliss was the one who made her a champ, right? I feel that Asuka's, she's got to retain. It's just there's too many young championships or young championship reigns that you just rob the company of creating storylines and Jax just keeps hurting people, and I can't see her being in like the greatest light with the company right now with the amount of screw ups and botches that she's had.
Yeah, I don't see a world in which Nia Jax wins. I don't. I know that she is the proverbial Goliath to David, as she is in every match that she has. And Asuka to me seems to be really warming up as a just recently turned babyface champion. Her just obnoxious, weird, but yet charmingly magnetic type of promos, I don't know how to describe them, are kind of endearing. And she's so wacky that it's becoming like it's like her thing. And she's great in the ring. I think that she has a lot of legs as champion. I just don't think Nia Jax is the one to take those legs away. I think that I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's a call-up. Maybe it's somebody existing. But I think that somehow, some way, Asuka ends up winning this match. I just don't see how Nia Jax wins. She just, like you said, yeah, she has a terrible record of hurting people. And I just don't think, character-wise, too, she's kind of the Braun Strowman of Raw.
Yes.
Like, she just is, okay, she's big, all right? She stands out because of her size. Great, that's a positive. But what do we know about her? We don't know anything about her. Nothing. I mean, just like Braun Strowman. Okay, he tips things over. Great. Nia Jax, she hurts people. Okay, great. What's her thing? Like, what is Nia Jax? Who is she? We know nothing. So, with very little character development, I care very little about Nia Jax as champion because I don't know her. So, to me, Asuka wins this in probably not the greatest match on the show, given Nia Jax's, I mean, let's face it, she's just limited in terms of Asuka's style. I think it'll be a good match, yes, but it's not going to be one that tears the house down. It's just going to be a David and Goliath female version of it.
I can see that, and what I think this match comes down to and what can save it is if Nia sells, if she can sell, and sell like she's actually getting hurt by this much smaller Asian who's supposed to be like the female version of Muta, then we could have a good match. If she doesn't sell, and I mean, it's not like one of these, weird shows where, you do like 15 false finishes and stuff like that and keep kicking out of finishers. I don't see it like that, but if she can sell for Asuka, I think that we can turn what might be a 6 out of 10 into a 7.5 to an 8. It just, that's the one thing that Nia doesn't have is ring psychology. She gets in there, she does her stuff. She doesn't sell as much as most of the other girls, and I don't know. It takes away, I think, from her, because one moment she's like holding her thigh because she just got kicked in, and all of a sudden she's fine. And if she can add that element, then we could stretch this match into something better than it is right now. But it's all staying with Asuka, especially being handpicked to take the belt over from Becky. That tells you that they've already invested a lot into Asuka. And I feel that she was probably supposed to be the one that was even winning the women's, Money in the Bank, which is now gone. So Otis can give that over to Mandy. I know. Sorry, I had to do that. Scrape that tongue. I feel that it was eventually going to be Asuka cashing in on her, but I think it was going to be more of a crazy, goofy, heel Asuka. But I see that they've invested way too much in her already, and they've got plans for her for at least half a year or so.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And maybe as I'm thinking about it, Asuka's next opponent is Shayna Baszler. I mean, maybe that's where they're headed. They kind of teased it at the little powwow they had before Money in the Bank. So, to me, that's probably where they're headed, as Asuka versus Shayna Baszler next after Nia Jax. So, just my thought. But all right, Universal.
Good thought, because I want to say real quickly, where is Shayna? How's she doing? Is she alive?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, true. Yeah, I mean, she's MIA, but I think maybe they just thought, let's get through Nia. You're going to be her next opponent. Let's get you off TV. I mean, maybe it was strategic. But I think that's eventually where they're headed, is Shayna versus Asuka. Maybe it's SummerSlam. So,
go ahead.
No, it's okay. Universal Championship match. Here we go. Braun Strowman versus The Miz and John Morrison. I'll give my thoughts on this, and I know we talked a little bit about this, but at top of the show with the question that we got. But I still think Braun Strowman's going to retain. I don't think it's a lock by any means. I would still give it about a 90% chance that Braun Strowman retains for just really a lot of reasons, given that Braun Strowman won it at WrestleMania. We all know that, at least in my eyes, and really WWE has shown this over the years, that typically their WrestleMania title wins or retentions stick for a long time, meaning 4, 5, 6 months minimum. So Braun Strowman, by the laws of pro wrestling, should hold on to this belt for at least a few more months. And I guess I would keep him with the belt, given that The Fiend is next. At least I think it is. My guess is that it's going to be The Fiend versus Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. And so after Braun Strowman ends up beating these guys, maybe that's when Bray Wyatt, or as The Fiend, comes out and attacks Braun Strowman, leaving him laying in the ring. Knowing okay, here we go, we're now into Braun Strowman versus The Fiend. So that's probably how this thing goes.
I mean, it's the only way to go at this point, because as we had stated earlier, there's no way to believe that anybody's going to beat this beast that you've created. That's the reason Andre the Giant never had the world title except for that fluke win. It's because who's going to take it off of him? And we got Braun, this ginormous man who can flip over ambulances and everything else, which, why would you flip over an ambulance if you're a babyface? Hello. It's like counterproductive to helping human beings. But anyway, the only reasonable person that I can see beating him is going to be The Fiend, unless they want to build up a Roman Reigns recapture of like 2 summers ago. And oh God, that's going to kill more ratings, I think. But and we don't even know when Roman's going to return. But I think that it's a difficult situation. Obviously, okay, Braun wins. Braun's. I see this as a really short match. I see it as really, really short. 1, Morrison's way too talented. 2, it just has to go over fast. It just, because you're going to cement him as the Beast, the Destroyer. And I think that the payoff is going to be Bray Wyatt as the Fiend, maybe attacking him from under the ring or something else, or some kind of chicanery. But, and we both agreed there's like a, 10% chance that the Miz and Morrison become co-world champion, which would be just terrible. But, yeah, I got to go with Braun Strowman on this, and the best thing they can do is move that belt off of him as soon as possible, because it's a ratings killer. It's hard for us to believe that anybody is a credible, threat to anybody who can turn over a semi and stuff like that. So you paint yourself into a corner, and once again, we've talked about this before. I'm wondering if this might be the debut of Lars Sullivan.
Good point. Yeah, Lars Sullivan is looming out there, right? Lars Sullivan, people have forgotten about. Yeah, he could be looming out there for sure, depending obviously on what roster he shows up on. But was he on Raw? I'm sorry, SmackDown? He was on SmackDown, right?
I wasn't sure. He was there for a cup of coffee, so.
I know. And then he got injured, and yeah.
That's the animal. That's the biggest guy they got. That's, if you're going to believe someone's going to take out, Braun Strowman, it's got to be someone who's equally as powerful and strong. And remember, he and Balor and Strowman were all coming up through NXT together. So they were all friends. It makes sense.
I think you're onto something. I don't know how close Lars Sullivan is. I would assume close. I mean, it feels like he's been out for a year. I mean, yeah. So Lars is probably close, and if that's the case, that would be an interesting matchup. But ultimately, I still think it's going to be the Fiend taking the belt off of Strowman, which would then lead to whenever Roman Reigns comes back, we get that program that we thought we were going to get at WrestleMania of the Fiend versus Roman Reigns for the championship. Ultimately, Roman Reigns conquering the Fiend, and the big hero comes home. That's probably where they're headed, is my guess. Now, again, the timing of when live events come back, or when it's deemed safe for Roman Reigns to come back. I don't know how you ever deem it safe, given that this virus is not going to just go away because you want it to. I have no idea. I mean, to be honest, the thing is, even if they create a vaccine tomorrow, number one, vaccines are not always 100%. It's like getting the flu shot. You don't know what strain you're going to get. They just take a guess at the strain that's going to be most popular during that season. Number two, the availability of the vaccine. I mean, is everyone going to be mandated to get the vaccine that comes to an arena and show paperwork? Like, how are they ever going to get rid of this virus completely? The answer is never. It's going to be just like the flu. I think that seasonally comes back. So I don't know what or how it's ever going to be deemed safe. Do they keep the plexiglass up? They're not allowed to brawl in the audience? Like, I don't know when those things are ever going to be taken down, but maybe that's how eventually it comes back. Plexiglass, people required to wear masks, or half capacity in arenas. But I think Roman Reigns probably comes back, assuming in the next few months, leading to a Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns program maybe later in the fall.
It makes the most sense right now to go down that road. I mean, obviously, like we both agree, Strowman's winning this thing tomorrow. It's no questions asked. Like I said, I still think it's going to be a really fast squash match, which further diminishes John Morrison's value, but that's just the way I see it. And I see it one of these things where, like, one guy goes for a high crossbody and he catches him, and then the other guy tries it too, and he pins them both and just outright buries them. And I hate it, but that's probably where it's going to go. We're going to play a little hot potato with the belt. It's going to go over to the Fiend, and then eventually go back to Roman Reigns. At this point, I feel that Roman Reigns won't be. I still stick by my words that I think that he's kind of in the doghouse, and that he might be more in the Intercontinental picture for about a year or so. And if that's the truth, if he's really upset, that, especially pulling out of WrestleMania, I mean, that's not, taking your ball and going home. That's really like just saying, screw you, McMahon. But I get it, and I understand why, and I support him for it. But the fact is, Vince likes to punish. And I just have a feeling that he'll be stuck in a different bracket for a while. And if it takes a year, I'm cool with it. I'd rather see Roman work with people like AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan and Nakamura and people who are talented, as opposed to work with, not that Wyatt isn't talented, but he's not on their level. Let's be honest. And it'll do something for his in-ring. It'll create a story and put legs underneath it and put that march towards the world title a lot better. In the meantime, though, you're right. It's going to be a rematch with the Fiend, and we both agree that the Fiend does not need the championship. He's a big enough character. He supersedes the situation, and but seeing him at the end of every broadcast does not put a frown on my face at all. I just need to see him used in the right light. Kane had the world title a couple times. I'm a huge Kane fan. The guy could work like no one's business. But, you remember the first how many years of his career, Paul Bearer cut his promos for him because he had the mask and he wasn't supposed to be able to talk and this, that, and the other. But you believed that this guy was a wrecking machine. And you didn't have to put a piece of metal on him to say he was top dog. You just believed that when he came out there, someone was going to get hurt. And that's how I feel about the Fiend. So, it's hard for me to speculate going into SummerSlam besides it being the Fiend. If it's anybody else, it'd have to be Lars Sullivan, because you're not going to believe anybody else smaller is going to take out the monster among men.
No, I'm with you. I think now that you I didn't even think about Lars Sullivan, but yeah, that would be, and you know what? I'm fine with the new face on SmackDown. I'm fine with the new face, period. I mean, anything that would just deviate from the norm right now is something that I'm on board for. So, no, well said. Now we get on to the other championship match, Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. My thoughts on this. So first of all, who wins? Boy, this is not as easy as I thought it would be.
It's tough.
This is hard because you have Drew McIntyre on one side, the guy that the fans have self-appointed, the one that has paid his dues, that feels authentic as a champion. He doesn't play wrestler. He feels like a legitimate champion. He doesn't feel like a guy pandering like Seth Rollins did after he beat Brock Lesnar. He feels authentic. I love it. Drew McIntyre's champion is even better than I thought it would be, and I'm loving him as champion. Now, that being said, and he just won it a couple of months ago, you have Bobby Lashley on the other side of this, who has never got a championship match opportunity, is excelling with MVP, and looks like a machine. He looks like he should be dominating the brand. And you also want to create a new heel. You don't want to bury Bobby Lashley because then Drew needs somebody to dance with. What are you going to do if Drew McIntyre goes out there, Claymore kicks Bobby Lashley, and it's over? What? No, you. That is not the way you build somebody. The way you build somebody is to either have Bobby Lashley have an upset win, or have Bobby Lashley beat down McIntyre to the point of the referee stopping the match, and that way Drew keeps the belt, but Lashley is built into it or building towards a star. To me, this match is all about Bobby Lashley more than it is Drew McIntyre, because I see a lot of potential with Bobby Lashley. This is not Umaga versus Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania 23. Like, this is Bobby Lashley, a more mature, a more seasoned, and you have MVP. That's the key. You have MVP as his mouthpiece, who is doing an awesome job. This has to be about Bobby Lashley. And I'm not saying he needs to win the belt here, but they need to make him look like somebody truly threatening to Drew McIntyre with that full Nelson. Maybe Drew McIntyre passes out but doesn't tap out, and that's how this thing ends, is maybe he passes out but doesn't tap out, so he doesn't. It's just referee stopping the match. But if Bobby Lashley wins the belt here, I won't be mad. I really won't. I mean, I'll be shocked in the way that, like, wow, they took it off Drew that quick. But to me, there's Bobby Lashley on the other side. Like, well, there's also that racial element that we talked about. Is WWE considering it? Does that certainly tip the scales in Bobby Lashley's favor? There's a real case to be made for Bobby Lashley winning here. This is not easy at all. I would almost say it's 50-50. I'm going to go with the safer bet, I guess safer, of Drew McIntyre retaining. But boy, oh boy, is this one hard.
You and I've talked about this before, and I want a DQ. It's the only time I actually want a DQ because they both need to be elevated. You can't take the belt off McIntyre this quick. He's organic. He's what they wanted Roman Reigns to be, and the people are behind it. You know, it's not just the fake people, you know, that they have in, you know, the NXT crowd that they tell them to cheer and they tell them to boo. It's the fact that it's all over Twitter. It's all over everywhere. Like, he got to the spot for a reason, and he was supposed to be in the spot a long time ago. But when they told you he's the chosen one, everybody turned on him, just like when they found out Roman Reigns was the new chosen one. But when you work for it and you it says so much to his journey that he actually got released and went to Impact and he went to Evolve and he went to all the indies and worked his way up. It was a real wrestling story, and that's why we love him, and that's why we're into him. Now, as far as Bobby Lashley goes, everybody wants the same thing. Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. I don't think there's one human being that does not want to see that. And honestly, I would love to see a real shoot fight between the two. I think it would be entertaining. I think that Lashley would do a lot better than people think, and he might actually win. And I know I'll catch a lot of flack for that. I don't care. The fact is, if you've not watched his fights, YouTube's out there. It's always out there. The man can fight. And taking the wind out of his sail right now would be terrible. This has to be a no contest. It has to be a DQ. I just don't want it to be too hokey. I would like to see, like you said, maybe Lashley keeps doing something and the referee stops it. Or MVP gets involved and there's a DQ. But, you know, whatever happens, Bobby Lashley needs to look like a monster going in and coming out. He needs to not have his reputation tarnished. If he gets Claymored and just eats the 1, 2, 3 and counts the ring lights, but you're wasting something that was over 10 years in the making. And we don't have time. We don't have another 10 years. Bobby doesn't have another 10 years. I know Drew doesn't have another 10 years. So for both of them, for their growth and everything that they come through, while we want this main event, I don't think either one of us want anyone to clearly win, because they both need to just, let's water that seed and let's make that plant get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what could really happen here. You could really establish both by just having them. I don't know. There's got to be a way, and there is many ways, for no clear-cut decisive winner, a DQ, anything, any weird thing could happen to cause it. I love MVP being with Bobby Lashley because MVP is amazing, and I've heard other people say, oh, I don't want to see MVP in the ring anymore. You know what? He's not terrible. He's a lot better than a lot of people that I'll name that are actually on the card. So, and that's my opinion. But brass tacks, baseball bats, and I know we both agree that, you know, with everything that's happening, with the tensions, the crises within the cities and the riots and everything else, that we could see it going one way or the other, but I don't think that there could be a clear-cut winner of this. This needs to be pushed and maybe even separated for a while. And they go their own paths after having just some kind of just knuckle-dragging, crazy melee. So that's where I am with that one.
No, I think that you're absolutely right. And this, like, and I said it before, I'll say it again. This is about Bobby Lashley, not about Drew. Drew is a made man. This is about Lashley being elevated to that next level. This will be an extreme disappointment if it's Drew just hitting the Claymore and getting the victory. I will be really, really disappointed in WWE if that's what they do. I don't think they'll do that, though. This should be a ref stoppage. Like you said, this may be the first time in the history of wrestling I'm like, oh, please be a DQ. I don't need a clean finish because neither can afford to lose clean. Neither. So Bobby Lashley, to me, will come out a winner. Again, is there a chance he comes out champion? Yeah, there's a chance, but It's slim, and I think that ultimately they are looking at Lashley versus Lesnar, and that would be a hell of a match. And maybe they're even looking at a triple threat for SummerSlam. Lord knows they love their triple threats with Drew, Lashley, and Lesnar. So, I mean, that's probably what they're looking at. They love their triple threats. That's probably what they're going to do. Any final thoughts on this championship match?
Your DQ, you already wrote it. It's Brock Lesnar. He comes out and destroys both.
Maybe.
Says that he wants to be back in the picture. We could do a triple threat down the road, but even if you don't, you could have MVP and Paul Heyman verbally sparring. That could be fun. That could actually be fun. And, saying my guy's just as bad as your guy, and, okay, he's been a Bellator champ. You've been a UFC champ. Well, you've been retired from UFC, so you have to fight. It could really escalate, and that's how you have those two go in one direction. And then Drew could concentrate on, a new singles feud. It's just difficult for me to look at anybody on Raw, especially the way he destroyed Andrade so many times and his whole faction. The only person that you believe is credible besides Lashley at this point is Seth Rollins, and you can't keep going to the same well. I want to see more things happen with Seth. I want to see him develop his team, his group, and I see so much more, and I see so much more vision for that could be really amazing down the road. But the fact is, it's hard to believe that there's anybody on Raw right now that is a credible, force besides Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley or Seth Rollins. And,
there's not. There's not. I mean, there's nobody left. You've named them all, which is why they went to Seth Rollins right out of the gate. I mean, yeah, Big Show, but Big Show doesn't really count. Like they went immediately to Seth Rollins. I'm like, why are they doing this so quick? But when you look at the roster, you're like, oh, okay, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Okay, they just released 50 people. You still have 150 people on your roster. There's so many. Walter over in the UK. Oh my God, that guy is amazing.
Yeah, Walter. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I like, that's my opinion. I know we may not agree on that, but he would be big enough, strong enough, and put on a great match.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought. Okay, so there's people that they could utilize, but we keep going to the same well. Eventually it's going to go dry, and that's how I feel right now. It's like, you're going to have to interject Brock Lesnar. He's probably going to have to be the one to destroy both of them, leave them both in the ring. And
hence
then
setting up the triple threat. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, and just go from there. But I would definitely have it more go towards Lashley and Lesnar.
I think you've. So I'm going to take that a step further. I think I can see this happening where Lesnar is the reason for the DQ. It's as Drew has a hard fought match, gets the end of the match, is about to hit the Claymore, and then does 3, 2, and then you hear Lesnar's music hit.
Yes.
And then that's when Brock comes down, F5's Drew, F5's Lashley, or maybe they have a stare down and they don't touch. That's because it would make sense, because Lesnar wants revenge on Drew for beating him at Mania. So now I think we've booked ourselves into, here it comes. 3, 2, bam, here comes Lesnar.
Yes.
So there you go. I think we've made it.
Why are we not on the creative team?
I don't know.
We get like $300,000 a year to write for them and not write for each other.
Yeah, seriously, Bruce, give us a call.
Yeah, Bruce, if you're out there, please.
All right. Greatest wrestling match ever. I say that with huge air quotes. You know how I feel about this.
Yes.
I've just destroyed that whole marketing of greatest wrestling match ever, so I won't do that. But Edge versus Orton, who wins this?
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. Because so Edge is already one up on me. But I hated all of Edge's promos going into this. I'll do the best I can, and I think I can, and then Christian making him look kind of stupid. I didn't like it, and I think two things, and I told you this a long time ago. This could be the cinematic match, which would be terrible, and the other thing I think is that, and this is going to be even worse, a double turn.
Hmm.
And that if that happens, scrape my tongue. It's terrible. What I would like to see, I'd like to see Edge go over. This is not going to be a great wrestling match. I think this is going to be terrible. This is either going to be like an RKO out of nowhere and the match is over, just like I think the Braun Strowman Miz Morrison thing could be like a squash match, or if I've heard they've already filmed this and it took like hours upon hours to do. And if so, they're really trying to make it the best match ever. It's going to be way overproduced and way over the top, and we're all just going to be like, this is not good. It could have been good if it was natural and organic and happened at WrestleMania and happened, in front of a live crowd. I have a bad feeling that this thing is going to be way scripted, and obviously it's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. It's not. Somebody call Steamboat and Flair and tell them that their title is still good. Okay, this is not going to be it. And the only thing I can see is it being a parody of itself, like it just turning into some kind of ECW garbage can bloodfest, and there's no real wrestling. And Edge says something along the lines of, I know I can't go in the ring like I used to, which I'd hate to hear him say that, but let's be honest, man, the guy's got a fused neck. I can see it degenerating into something it's absolutely nothing like what it was purported. What do you think of that?
So I will say I could see that happening. The only way I probably think it won't happen is that Vince is huge on not promoting something that you can't deliver. In other words, Vince, if you tease a match on TV, you either deliver that match or deliver something better. You don't not deliver anything. So if this is it's been billed as the greatest wrestling match ever since day one, which you all know I've completely destroyed and dismantled. That if they don't deliver at least an attempt at that, like if they have a match and it's clear that they're trying to have a great match to live up to the marketing, then okay. But the fact of the matter is they're not going to. They just flat. It's a scientific fact that they are not going to have the best wrestling match ever. It's just not going to happen. But if they at least attempt to, then okay. Maybe some people say it's the greatest wrestling match ever. I mean, maybe they are placating to wrestling fans that have been watching wrestling for like a month. In which case, maybe it is the greatest wrestling match ever because you have no context of history. So I don't know to any other wrestling fan that's been watching for a year or more, how the hell did they think that this is going to be the greatest wrestling match ever? But so my thought is Edge wins, but I'm not, like you said, I'm not confident on that. This hurts me. This is a match I would, if I was a betting man, would stay away from. I would come nowhere near this match with money. Yeah. Because there's so many ways that this could go. I mean, well, there's really only two, but there are really cases to be made for both sides. I can make a case that Randy Orton should win because he lost at WrestleMania, and you want to continue this and maybe completely blow it off at SummerSlam. Maybe that's the goal, because they went from last man standing to now the greatest, just a straight up wrestling match. I don't know what the third thing would be. I mean, I don't know if you look at their logic, it would be they went to the extreme. Now they're going to the straight up wrestling match. What are they going to have, a staring contest? I mean, that's the logic. I mean, or an arm wrestling match, because they're going backwards.
Maybe contract signing.
Yeah, maybe they do a contract signing and I don't know, and speak backwards. I don't know, because this whole thing has been backwards. But yes. This is hard. This is really, really hard to predict because of how many different cases you can make for both sides. Actually, I'm going to change. I'm going to say Randy Orton wins, and I'm going to say Randy Orton wins because I don't think this is the end of this program. We're creeping up on SummerSlam season. I could see this going to SummerSlam where Edge and Orton finally blow this thing off. So to me, Randy Orton wins.
Okay, I can dig that because, I mean, like you said, let's not forget that this was supposed to be an AJ Styles program, and just that whole Royal Rumble, incident with the spear and tearing his rotator cuff or his meniscus, it became Randy Orton, but it made more sense because you can build a story out of it, and they've done that. But and I love the fact that they're stretching this out. I do, but they're not going to deliver on this being the greatest wrestling match ever. They should have never. I'd love to meet whichever writer said those stupid words to Vince McMahon, and he said, "Oh yes, pal, did you realize it's not 2001?" You know, and you got a man who's been in 20 years and a man with a fused neck. And I'm not taking anything away from these guys because they are so amazing, but they were a lot more amazing 20 years ago, and that's not. It's not a stab at them. It's just the fact that it is what it is. You know, Mother Nature catches up with all of us.
Even if they were in their prime, I wouldn't say this would be. I don't care if they were in their best of the best. This would not be the greatest wrestling match ever. Whoever came up with the slogan has clearly never. They're not a wrestling fan. Like, they are not a wrestling fan because they have no concept of what this means to market this match ahead of time as the greatest wrestling match ever. They have no wrestling. They're not a fan.
And it's sad because who's going to be the loser? You and I. That's who's going to be the loser here. Because, well, you know what the sad part is? And this is really, we're going into this with low expectation. We don't want to see it. I don't say we don't want to see the match, but I don't think I think there's going to be so much just hokiness. And I see, you want to know how you can salvage this match? It's real simple. After Brock Lesnar destroys Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley in the ring, on his way back he beats up the two of them, and it never happens. That is the only way. And you could talk about it. It could have been this, that, and the other. But the fact is, you cannot put so much on this. And Savage Steamboat and Flair, Flair and anybody almost, and you can't bill it, you can't do it, you can't execute it. There's nothing. I don't care if Kevin Dunn spends 5 days out in a truck editing the match. It's going to look like a couple of guys in their 40s, and I can say that because I'm in my 40s, going at it the best they can, without a crowd, without, so many aspects that would make it better, and it's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. Something has to ruin this match. Just as much as you and I want to DQ on McIntyre and Lashley, I need something to make this match not happen, so that way we don't have to cleanse our palate and we don't. It just can't happen. It can't happen.
This is a match I wish I had my Twitter account active. I mean, I really do, because if it is that produced as you're saying, it makes me extremely fearful of what they're coming up with. Instead of just, leaving it the hell alone and letting these guys just have a match like every other match on the card. If this is truly a pre-produced, post-edited, special effects special, I don't know if I'll be able to stomach it. I mean, it would be a slap in the face to my intelligence, your intelligence, and just professional wrestling in general. I mean, like, they've done that over the last 3 months with their special effects nonsense of like, hey, we just got the latest software for our video editing. Let's try this. I mean, like, it feels like they're just playing and Vince is loving it because it's not true pro wrestling. But anyway, that's a whole different dark path. So yeah, I'm going to say Orton, not very confidently. You're going to say Edge, but not very confidently. This is difficult, really difficult. Yeah, I mean, it's not even. I think we can 100% agree it's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. That we are beyond confident on. It's just the outcome. It's like, I don't know. So yeah, it's been tough. Anything else on the card or in general in WWE that we didn't bring up? You wanted to talk about, comment on?
The only things I can think about right now is that I really wish the tag team scene was better. Like we said, Heavy Machinery should be a tag team doing tag team things in a tag team situation. I think the New Day looked like a bunch of goofballs, and I just wish that right now that I have a soft spot for tag team wrestling, and it's not because I'm a huge fan of Jim Cornette. It's just the fact that when I grew up, they always talk about the Road Warrior pop. I always want to see the Road Warriors. If you put me in front of my television, I want to see Ric Flair and the Road Warriors. That was it. That was like the most amazing thing to me in the 80s. And I miss like that feeling of tag teams out there as a real tag team, not who's going to be the breakout star. So yeah, that's something I just wish the company would work on as a whole and stop billing people as, like Enzo and Cass or a stupid, smashed together name. I rather see a real team name and somebody who I think could make an awesome tag team if they stick them together and keep them together is Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. It's just really sad because they're way too talented. We haven't seen them on television in a long time, and I don't know. I love those guys, and I think they're way too talented. They're being wasted as much as a lot of people are being wasted. But I get it right now with everything that's going on. Aside from that, I hope that I've heard that they are developing new belts for the U.S. title, or a new belt for the U.S. title, and I hope it's a Cadillac. I don't want to see something as bad as the one they have now with the paint all over it. I hate that belt, and I hope it looks good. So, especially with what they did with the Intercontinental, I think it looks so sharp. I'm hoping that the new U.S. title, when they eventually debut it, I hope it looks equally as good. So that's what I got right now.
Awesome. No, I agree about the United States title. It is a little bit. It's not as embarrassing as the spinner belt that John Cena had for years, but it is certainly. It does need a little bit of TLC. I will say that. So yeah, no, I'm with you on the tag teams wrestling scene. Really, the men and women's divisions are both pretty weak, given that they, again, Heavy Machinery was on a roll, and WWE said, or Vince said, hey, no, we found a funny guy, let's take him out. And then there's really only 3 women in the entire tag team division on the female side. It is a bit of a mess, and Vince seems to go in and out of these cycles of, oh yeah, well, we need to address that, and then he just goes off it one week, on it the next week. It's clearly not a focus or a real priority for Vince McMahon to focus on the tag team, which was it's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, you got the Raw tag team title champions worried about a bowling contest with their foes rather than in ring competition. So there's your answer to what Vince thinks about tag team wrestling is basically a throwaway comedy segment. So, but before you go, of course, any shout outs that you want to give and or social media that you want to share.
Absolutely. First of all, you can always find me at 144captain on Twitter. And I want to shout out to Brittany Callahan. She's a new follower to me on Twitter. Apparently she loves listening to the show. She loves listening to all of our different opinions, and I think that's really awesome. And I'll tell anybody, if you're going to follow me, give me some questions, because I'd like to talk to with you and anybody on the air. I think that'd be great. And then there's a restaurant across the street from me that I want to give a shout out to some people who work there. Simon Banks, Randy Stewart, and Don Reinhardt. They all work at Amici Cafe in Louisville on 4th Street in Ormsby. And they're an amazing staff. They're amazing people, and they treat you really well. And the fact that everything's opening up again, they are just great, and the food is amazing. If you're down in Louisville, please check it out. And then I want to make a shout out to a girl. Her name's Marina Nasius, and I don't know, we kind of like each other. So, I wanted her to feel special. And her favorite wrestler of all time was La Parka.
Wow.
She grew up. She is Latino, and she grew up down in Texas. And she told me that when she was a child, she used to go to the shows with her parents and her grandparents and everybody else, and La Parka was her favorite. So I wanted to give her a little special shout out.
Cool, very cool. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. I mean, La Parka was well known, but I've never heard anyone say, "Yeah, La Parka's my favorite." So that's pretty cool. I've never met anyone that had them as their favorite wrestler. So very cool. All right. Wow. Lots of shout outs. That's great. And yes, support your local businesses. And if you're in Louisville, go check that out. I don't have any shout outs, so I kind of feel lame right now. So, all good. So, Michael, as always, it's been a blast having you on the show. Backlash should be extremely interesting. I mean, I'm looking forward to this much more than I was Money in the Bank, for sure. So, I'm interested as we close out Backlash tomorrow night and we roll into SummerSlam season to see exactly what WWE has up their sleeve. So we'll be definitely in touch, probably sooner than later.
Definitely, and I think that you and I touched on quite a few creative ideas, which it's so sad that you and I, in a verbal conversation, can come up with so many ideas with Lars Sullivan, with Brock Lesnar, with everything else, and WWE can't. So, and especially firing somebody who's integral to coming up and pushing new stars, we've got a lot of homework ahead of us. We got a lot of stuff to see, and tomorrow I'll probably send you a message or two if I don't bother you too much, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. So let's see what happens, especially for the next month. Let's see if any of our ideas come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm very curious too. I think we'll probably be right on the Brock Lesnar thing. I'm starting to gain more confidence on that. So yeah, I think at least one of our ideas will probably come to pass. But we shall see. And damn, I wish I had my Twitter. But yeah, feel free to message me.
All right, brother. And you have a wonderful night. And I just want to say to everybody out there, take care of one of each other, or take care of everybody around you. Take care of one of another. This is a time where we're not, doing the greatest of this nation. We can do better, and we can always start by looking at ourselves, looking in the mirror, and then looking at the person next to us and saying, "How can I help you?"
Great message. I mean, no better time than now to relay that. So very good.
All right, sir. Well, I will bid you adieu, and I just want you to know that I'm always humbled and I always feel great being on the show. Thank you very much.
No, it's been a blast, and we will definitely have you back on shortly. Let me just put it that way. So you enjoy your night, and we'll be talking soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.